Okay, so since I was up here anyway introducing the panel, I decided that it'd be easier if I just went ahead and go first. So I got a 10-minute clock. We're all trying to throw this stuff up, so we have plenty of time for conversation. So if I rush through this, mine's already on the web. You can get a hold of any one of us. We have business cards, emails. If you need more information, please ask us, even in the question and answer session, because our goal is to give you time to have discussion after this. My taking off point is really talking about perception and reality in Ferguson, and that how blacks and whites have very different perceptions of the police. And my argument is that these perceptions are based on the realities of those people, as you saw from the Daily Show clip. We know a couple things that are pretty much certain. Michael Brown was killed on August 9th. There was some kind of altercation at the police car. Apparently Brown was shot as he was fleeing. He turned around, and then we don't know what happened. Some witnesses say he had his hands up and did nothing else. Some witnesses say he had his hands up and he stumbled forward because he was injured. And some witnesses said he actually moved towards Officer Wilson aggressively. We don't know really what that happened there. All we know is that there was some altercation, and then from there all things went wrong. What I'm talking about, though, is how those events are perceived, because the reality of whites and blacks in America is very different, and that affects how they perceive these very seemingly innocuous, seemingly, this is what happened, but how we see those events are very different, depends on what our perceptions are. So we're going to talk about what are our perceptions, why there's so much mistrust among police, how that affects the view on whether or not justice was served, and how, if possible, we can change these perceptions. So a whole bunch of studies here. If you look at it, they're all saying the same thing. These surveys show that black people and white people have very different perceptions of what happened. Was Brown targeted because of his race? If you're white, you say yes. If you're black, if you're white, you say no. If you're black, you say yes. Was the killing justified? If you're white, you say yes. If you're black, you say no. Should Officer Wilson be prosecuted? Should he be charged with a crime? Again, if you're white, you say no. If you're black, you say yes. Very different attitudes, very different perceptions. And why? Why is there so much more mistrust of police? Well, it's a long history of it. I'm hoping we'll hear, I'm sure we'll hear more on that. But I'm going to give you some data points. Again, I'm throwing this on the web if you want more. But Missouri has a really cool program where they track every police stop in the state, both at the city level, at the county level, and at the statewide level. And if you look at the level, you break it down any way you want. Whites are more likely to have contraband in their cars, but blacks are more likely to be stopped, and blacks are more likely to be searched. So the contraband hit rate for whites in 2013 was 26% for whites and 18.8% for blacks. So again, whites are more likely to have drugs in their cars, even though blacks are stopped and searched more often. And this is not a fluke. Here's the table showing the statewide data. You can go back, and what's cool, Missouri's been doing this for 13 years now. You can go back, say any other year, and you see the same data. 2010, 2005, 2002. It's the same statistic. Year after year after year, blacks and Hispanics too, get pulled over more often, get searched more often, yet every year the results are the same. Whites are more likely to have drugs or guns or contraband in their cars. And there's also, you can break it down by Ferguson, by city as well, and you can look at it. It's the Attorney General website. It's a really useful website. But profiling is not limited to just Missouri. Missouri just does a really good job of keeping track of all that. In New York City, they used to have something called stop and frisk, and guess who was stopped and frisked? Overwhelmingly black, 52%, and 31% Hispanic. Yet again, if you were white, you were much more likely to have drugs or contraband on your possession, even though blacks and Hispanics were far more likely to be searched. Police shootings. Most people who are killed by police are black and Latinos. Chicago, Illinois, 91% of people shot by police and killed by police are for black, even though the percentage was only 33%. So again, all the way through, you see the statistics over and over and over again. In Walmart, a week before the Michael Brown shooting, this gentleman went to Walmart, picked up a BB gun, and started talking to his girlfriend on the phone, and you can see him swinging this, just playing, he's just swinging the gun around. Somebody calls the police and says there's a dangerous black man in the store with a gun, he's threatening people, and the police, you just saw the police just killed him. Right there. That was the police just killed this guy in Ohio, a week before Michael Brown was killed. There was a grand jury. A grand jury, there's actually one going on in St. Louis. A grand jury is a jury that's, it's kind of like a regular jury, except their job is not to find innocence or guilt, but to see is there enough evidence for a trial. And the grand jury, in this case, ruled there was not evidence to indict, to accuse the officer of wrongdoing. And so another black man was shot down, this time on videotape. So white and black realities are different. They're very different. And I want to stress this, I'm not blaming cops, because I think being a police officer has got to be one of the toughest, it probably is the toughest job. It is a hard job. I wouldn't want to do it. It's far too dangerous for me. I'm a wuss. I wouldn't want to do that. But it is, you know, the reality is there. I don't understand why blacks are pulled over. I try to think good of everybody, but something's wrong. And something is weird in our society. But this is year after year after year, state after state after state. This is not just a local Ferguson thing. And my argument is, unless we understand why, we won't really get a full grasp of what's going on. And so this reality of mistrust, this reality of being pulled over, of being shot at, this creates, and being harassed, this creates mistrust, not just of police, but of society in general. And so even though there are reasonable, for example, you know, why did it take so long for the county police to get to the scene? There's actually a reasonable reason for that. There's a very good reason for that, because there was a robbery down south in St. Anthony's Medical Center earlier that morning. So again, there are reasons for these things. But if you have a very heightened mistrust, you're going to be a lot more angry than you would if you didn't have this built-up mistrust. And even Ferguson Police Chief Jackson did apologize for the 4-hour wait. He thought that was too long. But I've looked at other data that shows that, you know, 4 hours is not totally, it's crazy that's that long, but it's not uncommon to wait that long. But this mistrust feeds this. And this perception shapes reality. So how the government, how the police are viewed affects whether they think there's going to be justice out of the system. The grand jury is meeting right now. They just pushed it back until January. There's a grand jury going on, going to decide whether or not Officer Wilson should be indicted. My guess is that if they wouldn't indict the officers when they have on video of shooting that guy in Walmart, they're not going to indict Officer Wilson. Obviously, it's a different grand jury, different people, but it's you know, you have to have some evidence. And right now, unfortunately, because Michael Brown was shot and killed, you know, one less witness to testify to a contrary statement. So there's always a problem there. But my fear is that and it's the reality, these polarized perceptions will lead to radically polarized conclusions. And, you know, if you don't believe that what's happening in this grand jury and Prosecutor McCullough, if you don't believe that this is a fair process, you're not going to be happy. I'm not sure, even if he was indicted, I don't think he would be convicted because there's so many conflicting testimonies about what actually happened in that shooting. But, you know, not having that, I think, is going to raise real concerns because of this pattern of mistrust. So what do you do? Well, my argument is that we should continue to track, what Missouri does is really good. We should track these police stops, but we also need to act on them. Police, we've been stopping people, overwhelmingly black and Hispanic, for 13 years now, but nothing has changed. It's the same data year after year after year. Installing cameras, which they are doing, I think is really good. If there were other witnesses, there's a really brief, I think I'm almost out of time, there's a really brief video which happened a couple weeks after Michael Brown.
Can I see your license, please? Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Is that it? This is a...
get on the ground! Get on the ground!
This is a black man in a gas station.
Put your hands behind your back. 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 Put your hands behind your back.
Get his license. He was trying to get his license before he was shot. He was not killed.
I think so.
He was not killed.
I can't feel my
And in this
leg.
case,
I don't know what
because they
happened. I
had the
just
camera,
grabbed my leg.
Break
he
your
was
neck.
pulled over
Take
because
your
of
hands
the seatbelt.
Why did you shoot me?
He didn't have, he had the cop had a camera in the car. They were actually able to see what actually happened, and this police officer was actually indicted, and he is going on trial for assault. So cameras can really do wonders. So I'm out of time, so I do want to turn over to I think we said Grace Moser next.